Steel connections play an important role in the integrity of a structure. Typically, the type of structural connection is specified by the structural engineer. However, the fabricator may create the actual connection to suit their machinery and manufacturing processes. In Revit, careful consideration should be given to the use of connections, as once a connection is placed on an element, other tools such as cut, cope and align are disabled. Before we can use structural connections, we must first load the connections we would like to utilize in this project. To do this, on the structure ribbon, select the Connection Settings tool. In the Structural Connection Settings dialog box, you'll note that we have our available connections on the left-hand side and our loaded connections displayed on the right-hand side. To help us navigate through the available connections, we have the connection group filters. So I'm going to start here by selecting plates at beam. And in here, I shall add the base plate. I also want to add a clip connection, and that's under platform beams. And here we have clip angle. Let's also add that. Click OK to the Structural Connection Settings dialog. To place the connection, we'll first select the structure ribbon and then select a connection. In the Properties palette, in the Type selector, select Base Plate. We can select the column that we wish to attach the base plate to, and then either press Enter or Spacebar to finish. The connection is then modelled. So we're now going to make some modifications to this structural connection. Go ahead and select the structural connection that you've just placed. And notice in the Properties palette, in the Type selector, we currently have a type called Base Plate. Let's click Edit Type and first duplicate our base plate type. So for the new name for our base plate, we'll type in BP2. And then we can modify the parameters for base plate 2. In the Edit Connection Type dialog box, you'll note that we have a live preview on the left-hand side. Note here that we can orbit around this by holding the Shift and middle mouse button. On the right-hand side of the dialog box, we can configure the connection. So let's start with the plate thickness. So I'm quite happy with 1 inch, so I'll leave that as is. You'll then note that the column shortening is governed by the plate thickness. I'm going to change this to a value, and I'm going to put a shortening of 2 inches in here. And what that will do is that will give me 1 inch here to allow for grout for the base plate. I'll now select base plate dimensions, and here you can see that we've got an initial projection of 3 inches. I'm going to change that to 4 inches. And you can see the base plate grows in size. If we select anchor and holes, here we can choose our type of anchor that we want to use. So in this example here, I'm going to use a threaded anchor. And here we can choose our anchor size. So here we'll have 3/4 of an inch. You'll also notice here that we can configure the anchor assembly, which controls how many washers we have and so on. Okay, so let's now set the anchors parallel to the web. So here we have 2 anchors. Of course, we can change this. I could say I wanted 3 anchors perhaps in there, and you can now see we have 3 anchors. In this case though, we only want 2, and we'll configure the intermediate distance to 12 inches. We'll also set the anchors parallel to the flange, and that would also be 12 inches. Finally, let's select the holes option here and click on grout holes, and here we want to enable a grout hole, and we want a grout hole of 1 inch. So our base plate is now configured. Select OK to the Edit Connection Type, and OK again to the Type Properties, and our connection will update. Also note here we have our 1 inch gap between the plate and the floor slab. Next, you copy the connection to similar columns. Select your connection, right mouse click and select Propagate Connection. The connections will begin to background process, and you'll now notice the connections are populated. Because all the connections are the same type, if I go back and edit the type, all of those base plates will update and change. The advantage of having the structural connections now in our BIM model is that we can now better communicate our design intent to the fabricator.